to the Discworld reread series where I plan to reread every single Discworld novel. My name is Gunnhildur and I'm pretty certain I'm a little bit insane. So the Discworld novel we are talking about today is the 5th one, Sourcery. If you saw my last review video about Mort, unfortunately, listen, about that. Mort is unfortunately my least favorite of the Discworld novels. I say unfortunately because it's a good book. I just don't quite with it for some reason, and it still irritates me, the fact that I cannot enjoy Mort. I did, however, quite enjoy Sourcerer and had a way easier time reading it. Maybe because it's a Rincewind novel. He's always been one of my top favorites, so that may be it. Sourcery came out originally in 1988, so when I was 4 years old. And one of the main heroes is our friend Rincewind yet again, so we get to follow him for a little bit. In the beginning of the beginning, there was an 8th son of an 8th son. He was quite naturally a wizard, and there it should have ended. However, for reasons we better not get into, he had 7 sons. And then he had an 8th son, a wizard squared, a sorcerer magic, a sorcerer. Can I just point out the cover itself though? Again, it was by Jack Kirby, I believe. His style, it was wonderful. This is supposed to be one of our main characters, Colina, Nigel, Rincewind, and this definitely does not look like Rincewind because he would have been so proud growing that beard. So this story has, this book has such a good beginning. This story literally starts on the cliffhanger. Like, we begin with the titular character of the backstory. We start with the wizard Ipslor the Red. He's a character. He's definitely he is, I'm not gonna lie, he's the villain of the story. He's the main villain. He's the reason for this entire thing to happen. And he's quite insane. His wife has recently passed away. He is holding his newborn son in his arms when death comes to do his thing. Well, it's not the child that he's coming to pick up because, according to death, the child has his own destiny. Ipslor, however, is a very, very proud man. He is, we know the type. He literally chased away his other 7 sons because they would not bend to his will and do what he wanted them to do. This really doesn't bode well for the 8th child, who has no one to look out for him. Ipslor kinda cheats death. Kinda, I say, death on Discworld, he doesn't get fussed. He knows he's gonna get you in the end. I was a little bit annoyed with Ipslor for what he does, because Ipslor manages to transfer his conscience into the staff that he made for his son. And the staff is so unnatural. It's the only metal staff that has existed on the Discworld. Made out of magical iron, by the way, called Ocht iron, that no fire on Discworld can melt, which kind of begs the question how he managed to make these stuff. But anyway, distractions, I can't remember where I was. I remember I was talking about Ipslor. Cliff notes, he's extremely proud, extremely powerful. He really wants revenge on the wizards of the Unseen University for throwing him out because they said he was mad and he doesn't agree with that. He is. That's why we have this book. And then we pull forward, I would say a decade. And we get to the evil small gods when the Unseen University is having its... They've had an election for a new Archangel, so the way that wizardry works on the Discworld is that in order to advance, because there's a limited number of wizards in each cast or stage, and I do believe there are 8 levels. Someone in the upper level has to pass away, sometimes with some help. And the same goes for the Archangel. The only way for anyone to advance as an Archangel is for the previous Archangel to die, whether naturally or with assistance. And on the evil small gods, that's when the gods with some assistance elect a new Archangel. And the Archangel elect is Rincewind. I absolutely adore his name because bicycles. He patient, quiet, just biding his time. I did quite like the description of him. He sounded like a nice guy. So, you know, we meet Virid and we also meet the Argent Hat, which is one of the main characters in this storyline. The Argent Hat is literally a magical talking hat, which may sound familiar to anyone who knows anything about the Harry Potter series because of the Sorting Hat. However, this book came out in 1988 and I think the first Harry Potter book came out in 1998. I like to think that this book served as inspiration for the Sorting Hat. I'm like, although the Sorting Hat has a better personality than the Argent Hat, like, this is the hat that has been sitting on the head of said head twice. So Argent is the head of all wizards on a disc, and this hat has sat on that head for 2,000 years. So every single Argent that has existed in that time, their magic and their knowledge has seeped into this hat. So the hat has a personality of its own and an ego of its own. It's sitting in the room of Bicycles on the Eve of Small Gods. Meanwhile, our friend Rincewind, who is now an honorary assistant librarian, is trying to help the librarian calm the books down because all the books in the library are freaking out. He does also see that every single creature small within the university grounds, they are leaving. We are talking the mice, the rats, the ants, the termites, the cockroaches, even the bedbugs that were living in his mattress and run away with his mattress to have somewhere to live. Because everything within the Unseen University is magical to some point. So you can imagine like the little tiny ants with their like little wheelbarrows and wagons. Like honestly, the descriptions that the Terry Pratchett pulls about all these little creatures is like, love it. Also the gargoyles that generally don't move that much unless they're trying to catch a pigeon. And all these creatures on the books know that a sorcerer is coming and they have no interest of being in the area when he does. So taking heed of all the warnings that he has received from the books, the ants and the gargoyles, Rincewind decides to run off. And he does manage to corral the librarian with him, at least to go to the pub. Which is fortunate because while they are away, the sorcerer arrives. So the first casualty of this is unfortunately Weird Bicycles, who is killed by the sorcerer, who then goes to the Great Hall to claim his place. Not long after, poor Weird faces his end, a thief enters the Unseen University and into his room and kidnaps, not steal, kidnaps the Argent Hat. I say kidnap because anything that has sentience of that level is kidnapped, not stolen. So we have plot A, which is the arrival of the sorcery. We have plot B, which is Rincewind getting drunk at the bar, and then plot C, that thief. Now plot B and C quickly join into one at the bar, at the invented drum, where the mystery thief that has been the story of legends in the past weeks in Ankh-Morpork. Like, this person managed to steal diamonds from the stomach of the head of the thief guild. It's like, this thief goes and finds Rincewind in the invented drum, and I mean, Rincewind is not the best wizard. He is really bad at using magic, but he's the only one available because all the other wizards are at the university being terrified of the sorcerer, who is the 10-year-old boy. Turns out with this wonderful thief of ours, it's a sea, and everything about her is beautiful. The description of her voice is, it was beautiful. It sounded like wild silk looks. And then when she pulls back or throws back her hood, her hair is long and almost pure white, and her skin was tanned golden. She is rather delicate but extremely beautiful. Her name is Konina, and she is a daughter of Cohen the Barbarian, the legend himself. I love it. We now have the Argent Hat, Rincewind and Konina running away within the bowels of Ankh-Morpork while a sorcerer is taking over the university. And why they're running away? Well, that's because Konina has been for example, stole one of the best racing horses of the patrician, amongst other things. Now, the thing about the Argent Yellow Hat is that it organized its own kidnapping, because first off, it knew that the sorcerer was about to arrive and was not about it, because that much magic in the hands of one person with the Argent Yellow Hat, it would just be no. The disc cannot handle another magic war, which unfortunately is what is going to happen. And the Sorcerer Hat wants to go to Klats. So while they are planning their escape to Klats, the wizards are like children playing with the magic that the sorcerer gives them. We are talking elderly adult men playing like children, like levitating into the rafters, making things appear. And the sorcerer makes a lot of changes. He completely changes the Unseen University from its cobblestones and ancient walls and all that old, everything that is old, he changes. He changes everything into white marble, into pure magic. Even Ankh-Morpork itself becomes a victim, and I say victim to it because we go from the iconic, grimy, silty, words that may not be the most positive Ankh-Morpork, over to white marble and red rose. Even the ink itself, that is that iconic, disgusting, silty, not quite water, is turned into white, just pure crystal flowing waters, and it's like, it is so weird trying to imagine the ink like that. It's like, and not only do they change Ankh-Morpork into a fairy tale city and the ink into, honestly, a river that would be more suitable here in Iceland, they absolutely go nuts with the power that they have. They, for example, spirit the patrician into the mist and change him into a little lizard. They kill people, they make people disappear, they absolutely wreck the place. Because, you know, men with absolute power are convinced that they are the only ones who can, to be trusted with power, the only ones who can make decisions, all that fun stuff. So the appearance of Cohen the 10-year-old sorcerer is a portent of the apocalypse. So no two seers, because this is Discworld that we're talking about and everything is literally minded there, no two seers could agree on what was actually going to happen. So what the wizards did is that they basically called it the apocryphal apocalypse. Apocalypse, because Terry passed it in his pants. So while all this is happening, Rincewind, the Luggage, the Argent Yellow Hat and Konina have secured a ship to take them over to Klats. They fight off slavers, find out that the captain was probably going to sell them into slavery anyways, but he's so impressed with them that they skip that fate. But the hat gets itself kidnapped, which I swear that has to have been his plan. Like, well, I say they fight off slavers. Konina and Luggage do. And the fun thing here is that Rincewind realizes that he is kind of falling in love with Konina because she is beautiful, she is smart, she fights. Because of the connection between him and the Luggage, because Luggage is, it is strangely in some unexplained way, no one quite understands, Luggage is very much connected with its owner. And because Rincewind finds himself in love with Konina, so does Luggage. So the Luggage is following Konina like a lovesick little puppy, and it's kind of cute. So our viewpoint character in Ankh-Morpork or the university has been the Bursar, Spelter, who hasn't quite fallen into the sway of the staff. He's basically the only straight man in this entire mess that has become the university. And he realizes that there's something up with the staff, and he actually bears witness to it one night when he sneaks off to the library because he's kind of worried about what is happening. And when he comes back, he hears sobbing coming from a room, and that room is the room where Cohen, the 10-year-old boy, stays in. And he sees that the staff is the one in control. So the thing that Spelter is also very much against is the fact that Cohen / the staff really wants to burn the library. He goes to warn the librarian, the staff follows him, and the staff murders him. He does, however, manage to warn the librarian and the books, so back to Konina and Rincewind, and so Konina makes the plan to get herself and Rincewind kidnapped, which they succeed in, despite Konina's genetics or inheritance fighting back against the thought of not fighting back. Makes sense in the book. They find themselves in front of Creosote, the Sheriff of Al-Khali, and his Grand Vizier, Abigail. So here's the part that I don't quite understand. They have the Archancello hat, and the hat asks for Rincewind and Konina, but then the hat is extremely dismissive of them. Abrim sends Konina into the Seraglio, which is basically the harem. It's not as bad as that may sound, because the Sheriff, the, you know, Mr. Lord Creosote, he's a rather peculiar character. He doesn't use the harem or the Seraglio in the same way as you might think. This guy gets off on stories. He gets hot and bothered under the collar at the thought of a young lady just telling him a story, like a fairy tale or folktale or whatever. Interesting character. Rincewind, on the other hand, gets thrown into a snake pit, which contains all of one snake, and the woolen underwear wearing junior 3 days in the job Barbarian Hero Nigel. He's wearing the woolen underwear because he promised his mother, because the traditional garb of a barbarian hero is leather harnesses and a loincloth. Oh, and goose pimples. Or goosebumps, depending on which word you use. Meanwhile, the Luggage goes to a bar to get drunk because Konina told it to go away, and it's heartbroken. Can you imagine a magic box on Hunter's little legs going into a bar and getting drunk? It does, however, also introduce us to the concept of Knurd, which is drunk backwards. And Knurd is... okay, so... in a truly magical... it's a footnote, I love footnotes. In a truly magical universe, everything has its opposite. For example, there's anti-light. That's not the same as darkness, because darkness is merely the absence of light. Anti-light is what you get if you pass through darkness and out the other side. On the same basis, a state of knurdness isn't like sobriety. By comparison, sobriety is like having a bath in cotton wool. Knurdness strips away all illusion, all the comforting pink fog in which people normally spend their lives, and lets them see and think clearly for the first time ever. Then, after they've screamed a bit, they make sure they never get knurred again. Well, needless to say, the first time Konina and Nigel meet, they fall in love at first sight. They then get straight back to bullying Rincewind and saving the world. So the thing about wizards is that in this condition that they find themselves with all that magic, the nature of a wizard is to build a tower. So there are towers sprouting all over the disc, and the wizards arrive in Al-Khali with a giant white tower because phallic symbolism that Terry Preston doesn't shy away from, and lampshades. So the Archancello hat has taken over the mind of Abrim, the Grand Vizier, because he has exactly the sharp, intelligent brain that the hat needs. And is the reason that the hat wanted to go to Al-Khali in the first place is because it knew about Abrim. Because Abrim has some magical talent of his own, or had. Technically he doesn't exist anymore. And the hat wants to use Abrim in order to fight the Sourcerer. So we are in a magical war at this point. So because the Luggage got drunk, because I just love this side plot, the Luggage gets drunk and wakes up in the desert, and on his way back, or trying to find his way somewhere, it fights a group of alligators, it fights a basilisk, and it fights a chimera. Two of the latter which are pretty much extinct by now, because of the Luggage. So as this magic war starts breaking out in Al-Khali, Rincewind, Konina and Nigel escape with Creosote, who they dig out of the rubble. And because of reasons, Rincewind ends up running away on his own on a magic carpet, and the other three follow him with the aid of a genie. In short, the librarian and the books are hiding in the Tower of Art. Cornelia, Nigel, and Creosote end up stealing the horses of war, famine, and pestilence because it's apocalypse. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse need to ride. However, those 3 horses are stolen, and Death absolutely refuses to share Blinky with the other 3 because of the looks of it. It's understandable. The Luggage distracts Ibrim long enough for the wizards in Ankh to strike him, and that destroys the tower in Alkali, and it obliterates the Argent Yellowhead. There is of course mention of the Dancing Dimensions, and they yet again, because of all this magic bouncing on this place, play a part in the ending. And it becomes very, very obvious that Cohen, the 10-year-old sorcerer, is being controlled by the staff. And the thing that I absolutely adore about this book is that Rincewind ends up challenging Cohen with a brick in the sock. He does end up saving Cohen in so many levels. He saves him from the staff, or the influence of the staff, by just being Rincewind. Cohen does end up throwing the staff away. This does enable Death to come in and finally collect his bounty. Cohen and Rincewind wake up in the Dungeon Dimensions, and Rincewind saves Cohen by making him, telling him to run into the light, while Rincewind stays behind with his second sock full of sand, which he uses to distract the things. That does mean that Rincewind is stuck in dimensions between realities, so he's stuck. He doesn't reappear until quite a bit later. And because of Cohen slash the staff, they did up, trapping the gods within a tiny little pearl, so the ice chains are broken up, so everything that is supposed to come with the apocalypse, it is happening. So the ice chains are broken up, the gods are missing, magic has devastated the disc entirely, reality is breaking, the things in the Dungeon Dimensions are breaking through, but the gods are released again by Cohen. The librarian technically saves him from being noticed by the gods, so hey. The gods re-imprison the ice giants. Cohen remakes everything in his old image, not as good as new, as good as old, because the librarian requested. He then exits the world into a place of his own making, because sorcerers never become part of the world, they merely wear it for a while. Also, he's 10 years old, he's been influenced by the staff since his birth. He doesn't know how to exist, basically. He doesn't know how to think independently, how to make his own decisions. And magic comes so easily to him that he can't exist without using magic, and he realizes that that's just not good for the world. He can't be within the world. So the last notes that I made was, the last 2 weeks quickly become like a strange distant dream. Basically things ease back into his old form, and people are like rather a little bit disoriented and like, what just happened? Particularly Patrician, who has this nasty nagging feeling of wanting to shoot his tongue out and cast some insects that are hovering around his lamp. That is Sourcery, with all the spoilers that I can fit into one video. I like this book. I really like this story. It has so much happening in it, so much going for it, and the fact that yet again it ends with Rincewind not on the disc. There's a theme going with Rincewind. Recommend it, definitely recommend it. So the next book after this is going to be Weird Sisters, and we are therefore back to Granny and the Witches and lunch and Shakespeare. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you join me for another one. Enjoy some of the other videos that I made about the Discworld, and I will hopefully see you later. Okay, take care. God bless.